Hello, hello, everybody. How are you? Okay, so I have everything in front of me and we are going to get started. I am excited. So I'll wait for people to hop on and then we will hit this. All right, so I see people starting to hop on. Good. I'm glad. Hopefully you guys are doing good today. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods and I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks, the IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So with that said, I'm actually in my office today. I'm not in my car. But either way, it's about what I talk about, right? Not where I'm at. So if you are new to joining me live, that is your first through third time. You post a one below. I want to get to know you, know who you are, what you're about, and hopefully you've definitely clicked notifications and joined our group. If you're an oldie but goodie, you post a two below, and they are always so welcoming and loving to all you newbies out there. And they are able to really help you guys out in many different ways. So I'm only one person. So I love my oldies but goodies because they've followed me for quite some time and they're able to really help you guys out and assist me in that. And they have a passion for this just like I do. So if you guys are new, post a one below, okay, your first through third time. You are a two below if you're an oldie but goodie, okay? So today we're going to talk about, well, first we're going to talk about ESY, COVID, and what does that mean if your child didn't get anything. My child didn't get anything, but I kind of left that alone for certain reasons. But if your child did not get anything, and you had asked for it over and over, and they just ignored you and didn't want to provide ESY for your child, and they blamed it on COVID. Oh, we're not open. We can't, provide ESY to your child, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know how it goes. So with that said, you want to make sure that you documented that. You want to make sure that hopefully you got that in writing, that they wrote it out for you. Okay. And then you want to make sure that you get a PWN. Okay. Go back and watch my video from Saturday. If you haven't, it's all about PWNs and the importance of that, and then COVID. All right. And if you have not gotten a PWN in reference to ESY, you should have, and you can do a couple different things if that hasn't been provided to you. One is a state complaint. You can email them and say, hey, what's up? You didn't give my child ESY. They qualify. What's going on? You don't want to look at ESY as, oh, my child should have gotten it this year, but they haven't gotten it before, and then look at it as compensatory. Doesn't work like that. So if your child already receives ESY, okay, so in some of our IEPs, okay, it says yes, always, okay, and some IEPs that I've seen says no, always, and it actually should not. So it should say yes because there's a history, or it should say NA, which means they don't know because they don't. So your child could never have received ESY ever. And then all of a sudden, 1 year, they need it. So the IEP can't just say no. And each and every year, the school by law has to discuss ESY each and every year. But that's also why I suggest to you guys, always have IEP meetings on a quarterly basis. You can ask for an IEP meeting at any time, and you want to make sure that you talk about ESY. And don't let them say things like, oh, well, we're not here to talk about that this time. We're going to talk about that next time. No, we're going to talk about it this time because I want to talk about it this time. They don't get to dictate to you. I've had this done. I actually had it done recently too, surprisingly so. to say, oh, this is how it's going to go. This is how the meeting's going to go. This is how, things are going to flow. That's funny because I think I'm part of the team and I don't remember ever stating that I was going to be someone that was going to be dictated to. You're not going to dictate to me how the meeting's going to go, when it's going to flow, how it's going to flow, what order it's going to go in, and how long we're going to talk about what. Not happening, okay? So you need to make sure that you make it clear that you're not going to put up with things like that, okay? I think it's funny. I can't wait to, show up at meetings that, have that kind of dictation because I think I'm gonna just laugh it off, because they're talking about my kid or your kid, and if they're gonna sit and dictate to what you're talking about, how you're talking about, how long, I mean, who are you, So you want to make sure that you're clear on that. And sometimes you just got to throw it out, If they do things like that, show up and know that it's just a joke, all right? And then you do what you need to do to then go back to the table when you're ready. And when they understand that it's clear that you're part of the team as well, and that if they're going to dictate, you'll show up, you'll play the game, but you won't be talking. You'll be silent and you will ignore everything they say other than, nope, I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. Nope, I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. And move on. And then right after the meeting, you send an email and you say, I need an IEP meeting. And this meeting is going to be where everybody speaks together, where everybody is a team and not dictated. And then I would gladly participate. Okay? So they can't dictate to you how things are going to go. But going back to ESY, you want to make sure that ESY is spoken about each and every year, always, and it needs to be before April, okay? So make sure of that. Hi, guys. So Kim and Cynthia and Michelle and Victoria and Tasia, and we got Kim and Tara. Hi, Dorothy, and we got Linda on here, and is it Kaj? And Dorothy. Dorothy says, today my county allowed ESY to go in for services half hour, very clean temp taken. My daughter was happy to be. Yeah, that's good. So the other thing I want to tell you guys is, have you guys heard of this, Sam in Virginia, of this class action lawsuit going on right now? So I'm going to talk to you guys about that. I'll post something on it. I found it very interesting about Northern Virginia. Several Fairfax County parents got together and did a notice of complaint. It's called a systemic complaint. And so I want to make an announcement to anybody who lives in Virginia. I want you to PM me, okay? So if you know somebody who lives in Virginia, have them PM me, okay? So if you live in Virginia, PM me right away, okay? I have a plan. And I want to talk to you, okay? So if you live in Virginia, PM me, okay? As soon as possible. All right, so we have Michelle says, neither of my grandkids have gotten ESY. Yeah. Christina says, hello, long time no see. Okay, so we're going to talk about this class action lawsuit in a little bit. I'm going to post stuff on it, though, if I don't have time, because we're going to talk about ESY today. But I thought it was very interesting, and boy, does this school system, I don't know what you guys want to call it. It's just jacked up is what it is, really. I mean, the things that this superintendent and assistant superintendent say, guys, is insane. I mean, it's insane. I'll post it for you, okay? So I want you guys to read this because Northern Virginia is where I live. And so it's there's a lot of special needs kids in the DC metropolitan area, okay? And it's just crazy the audacity of this school system. There's even a video. They're even saying like progress reports aren't required. They're saying that, you know, a lot of the provisions of FAPE and a lot of the provisions of IDEA are not required. I mean, they just think that they're innocent to it all. And it's just not the way it goes. I mean, I just cannot believe the things that have come out of their mouth. I can't believe it. So I'm going to post it. So I'm talking about it. I know, but it is the it's in the Washington Post. Okay. And yeah, it's insane, guys. It's insane. All right. So it was a bunch of parents who got together and did this lawsuit, and it's called a systemic complaint. And I am all in to do that. So if you live in Virginia, please PM me. Okay. All right. So let's talk about ESY. So first off, I want to tell you guys, like I said, you can't just go after ESY if you've never had ESY. This isn't the year to do that. It is the year where we spoke about the other day on Saturday. Go back and watch that video, where you can get compensatory services, even though school systems will use the fact that they are closed. They were closed and they don't have to provide services to your child. Now, that is correct if they have not provided virtual learning to all children. Okay, so if they just did the distance learning where they send you an email every week to all children, then they don't have to provide what's in the IEP at that moment. But that does not mean they don't have to adhere to IDEA, okay? And they don't have to provide compensatory services based off the fact that during the time that things closed, they were not providing services, accommodations, modifications, and education to our children. So they are responsible for that. Maybe not during that time. Okay, so during the COVID time where they were closed, okay, if virtual learning wasn't given to all children, then no, they weren't required to live up to that, live up to your IEP. All right, but for most of us, that's over. School starts in like 2-3 weeks, right? And I know in my area what they're doing is they're doing virtual learning for all children through October, and then it's this half and half bullshit. It's so stupid. So bottom line, okay, now children with disabilities have more chance to get into the school, all right, and more time in the school, but compensatory services has to do with when your child left school, okay, so March for most of us, where were they? And if they regressed or if they stayed the same in that whole time period from March to present when they start school, they are entitled to compensatory services. Now, this is how you look at it, all right? So this is where it comes back to ESY. ESY is given to children who not just regress, okay? I have my paper here. All right. It is for children who need services and accommodations throughout the year for multiple different reasons. It can be for regression and recoupment. It can be for degrees of progress, that it's not just moving forward. It's not, they didn't lose anything, but they didn't gain anything either. And it's causing more of a disservice than a service. All right. So meaning that child needs a little bit of extra help throughout that summer. Emerging skills and breakthrough opportunities. So if a child's trying to emerge in something they're already behind, this can get them moving forward, not to progress in some amazing way, but to at least progress to the point where they are having those skills come about. All right. The next reason is behavior. All right. If your child has behavior issues, say that their behavior issues without that consistency, without that schedule, without that, plan of action that they do each and every day, that they continue to regress or their behaviors get worse. That is a reason all in itself for ESY. You also have the nature or severity of the disability. All right. So if it's a disability that says in your IEP that your child is, significantly impacted, whether that be cognitively or any other way, then that is a reason for ESY. Okay. And then also any other special circumstances or factors. And, there's multiple different reasons why you can get ESY. I don't know why school systems always say that it's for regression. It's not just for regression. Now, what it's not for is to babysit. It's not for, your child to get way ahead of the game. It's not for, to maximize their potential so that they just keep on moving and striving. It's not for them to, go to school 12 months out of the year. So all those, reasons, it's kind of common sense. All right. So Congress ensured that education to all children with disabilities under the Handicapped Act, all right, which is ADA, to ensure that all children with disabilities receive FAPE, all right, free and appropriate public education. Well, ESY is part of FAPE, all right? And if schools are closed, no, technically, they could say ESY isn't provided, but schools are closed when ESY is provided. So they can't use that excuse of, oh, schools are closed due to COVID, so we're not providing ESY. Well, schools are closed when ESY is provided. So where's the argument there? And if your child has regressed or not progressed, then they are entitled to ESY. Where you're going to fall into a kind of hiccup is if your child was never given ESY in the first place, to all of a sudden think that they qualify for ESY because you think it's needed and appropriate, which I believe you. I believe you're right. That's not enough. Okay, go after it next year. But for this year, it's solely for children who have had it or should have it, or it's in their IEP and that sort of thing. Now, again, compensatory services are different. So if you're thinking, well, my child should get ESY because they're behind and they haven't been in school for 6 months, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I got you. I understand. But you have to understand that the school isn't obligated to provide your child ESY just because they've gotten behind or whatever the situation may be because of COVID. Because again, at the end of the day, it is true that COVID is nobody's fault. Okay? Now, are the school systems, let me keep it just real, right? You want me to keep it real? The school systems are being assholes when it comes to all of this COVID stuff because they have a lot on their plate with it and they have parents coming after them like it's nobody's business. When I say they got parents coming after them like it's nobody's business, it's like vultures, guys, vultures. And I'm one of them. And you need to make sure that you get your head on straight, you know what you're doing, and you want to make sure that you really focus on getting your child what's needed and appropriate, and you need to fight. This is the time to fight, all right? And I mean fight, all right? Not with your hands, all right? But with your mouth and with what you do for your child, all right? Now is the time to speak up. If you've ever been or are that type of person that is quiet and just, I call them my sweet friends, just sweet and kind, and you just don't usually speak out or you don't want to hurt people's feelings, I'm going to tell you guys just from the heart, okay? I think that's amazing. You guys are usually the sweetest people in the whole freaking world, but now's not the time for that. You have to get the backbone. You have to step up and say, okay, this is normally how I am, but I can't be that anymore with this type of situation. Because if you do, they're going to run over you like you weren't even there at all, like a train. You cross the tracks and the train hits you and bam, it's done. That's what's going to happen if you just sit back and don't say anything. That's what's going to happen if you don't open your mouth and say, no, that's not going to happen. You're not going to continue to allow my child to get behind. Not that it was their fault in the first place, okay? Because what would be their fault is from where your child left off and then where they begin again, all right? If they don't make progress from then on out. However, that gap of time still is reflective to when they start school again, all right? And guess who's in charge of that gap of time? My school system did the same thing. They tried to come at me with, oh, we need to go over your child's present levels. Oh, really? And you know them? How? How do you know my child's present levels? You haven't seen her in 6 months. How the hell do you know my child's present levels? What are we going to talk about? What is there to talk about? Now, I can tell you my child's present levels. I know them quite well. But you don't. So how are you going to talk to me in reference to my child's levels? Do you mean I'm going to tell you where my child is presently? Because you haven't seen her in 6 months. I don't think you have much say there, okay? So you need to take over and stay focused in the fact that you are the one who has the power to say what's up right now. They have no idea where your child is right now. And that is what present levels means. We're talking 6 months, guys. 6. They're not going to tell you what your child's present levels are. You are going to tell them. So have it written down. Have your thoughts in order. Have a piece of paper in front of you at your IEP meeting. And you have written, look at your present levels on your IEP, kind of how it's written, if it's written right, okay? PM me if you need help. But you want to basically say, what's your child's weaknesses? What are their strengths? Strengths first, then weaknesses, all right? What are they working on with you? What is it they're struggling with? What is it they've gotten really great at? Have you even done any education with them? Maybe you just took a break and did other things. I know a lot of parents actually did that. And they actually went into a different level of teaching, which I thought was really cool. And they took their kids shopping and taught them, how to put fruit in the bag and how to weigh it on the scale and then how to go pay for it in the self-checkout. And, they just did different really cool things to teach our children, their children, independent living. So I thought that was great, And then, one of the moms got back to me and said, yeah, and I even taught her, counting still. I still threw in math with it. We counted how many peaches we put in the bag so that she could weigh them. And mom taught her how to weigh them. And then they went and did the checkout. That's genius. That's things that they don't do at school that parents could have just taken the initiative to do, which I did a lot with, life skills. I did that a lot with Skylar. And it's just something that I loved to do, I had to do a lot of math and a lot of reading and then a lot of like the English, writing and grammar and all that fun stuff. I actually don't care about any other subject. So I think I've told you guys that I'm focused on math and reading and then life skills. All right. And so you got to pick, just like I've said to you guys before, what's important to you. Now, depending on the impact of your child's disability, of course. But, if your child's on an alternative track, then pick and choose what's important to you because honestly, it's not all that important. Like all the history and stuff. I mean, for me, I live in the DC metropolitan area. So we go to the museums and, the natural history and, they have the new African American Museum. That's awesome. And they have the Holocaust Museum. They have the Spy Museum. They have all these cool things that I take Skylar to and have throughout the years and teach her the history. I'd rather teach her the history that I really want her to know than specifics to what schools are teaching right now. And so I focus for my child, and you guys got to choose this for you, of what's important. So I would rather them focus on math and reading. All right, so let's go back to ESY. So ESY is across the board an idea. It's in your state statutes and laws, and it is also part of what's going on today, and a lot of parents are angry. So just remember that it is very, very, very important to look at ESY as something your child already had or it's in their IEP. If it's not, change your verbiage and simply state, sorry, I didn't put my phone on vibrate. Simply state that your child needs compensatory services. I'm going to say this over and over again because, compensatory services are off the chain right now. So many children need it. So many. So you're going to get the opposition from the schools. You're going to. So, hi, and is it Angela? Angila? Angela, is that how you say it? Hello. Let me know if I said your name wrong. Sorry. Ashley, she's like, what did I miss? Lydia says, 2, always here to hear great new things. You're so welcome. Kaj says, what if it was never discussed in the annual IEP? Then that is a violation of FAPE. They did not provide what was needed and appropriate for your child because it didn't even come up. So that's a violation. They have to talk about ESY each and every year, okay? And that is just what has to happen, okay? It's in every state statute and it's an idea, all right? So a lot of teams will say, oh, we're not talking about that right now because they want to kind of just brush it off. And then it's in the IEP where it says no, and then you sign it. And it's something that a lot of parents overlook, and you have to focus on that. That's why when I do IEP makeovers, I go through every single page and we go through all the verbiage and everything within it because there's so many things that many of us miss. And I remember all the things that I missed. And I still miss things on my IEP sometimes because I get emotional about it. So those are things that, I change very quickly. But you want to make sure that things are where they need to be. Okay? All right. So Tara says, what page in the IEP would this be on? Everybody is different. Everybody is different. So it just depends on where your school system put certain things. Kaj says, okay. Kaj says, and they check no doesn't qualify. Yeah, so you need to change that. It needs to state NA. Okay, they're going to say, oh, we don't do that. We just check yes or no. And we check no until we see that they're able to, they qualify. All right. And then you say no, because you're not allowed to make a decision one way or the other until it's appropriate, which is closer to ESY time period. So they're illegally making decisions that are not allowed to be made until a period of time has passed and it's close to summer. So who are they to make a decision of no? What, no right now they don't qualify for ESY? Well, now my child doesn't need it because ESY is 9 months down the road. So you need to make sure that it says NA. We don't know. Okay? Tell them you don't care if they put a question mark, but they're not going to put yes or no. All right? Unless like your child has consistently gotten ESY and it's something that they just get. Okay? So you need to change that. And if they say no, then you fight it and you make sure that you don't let up. All right? Linda says, what about if some goals were not met at the end of the year and remedies were not enforced in the next IEP? So what do you mean remedies were not set or enforced? Michelle says, you better preach. Jess says, how do you know where my child's present levels are? They're right at the beginning of your IEP. So typically present levels are on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th pages, depending how big your IEP is. But they're the first things, other than the name and address and all that stuff, Usually present levels, from what I've seen, start on page 3. Oh, and you're saying in the 6 month. Okay. So they don't know. So basically what happens is, like I was saying before, is they don't get to say, oh, well, we're going to go by the present levels in March. No, we can go by the present levels in March, and we can go by the present levels that I have for them now, and then we can create present levels together. Option 1. Option 2 could be you go by the present levels from before, okay? And within 60 days, you recreate them based off where they are right then, along with what you have to say of where they were. So you can give them that option, all right? And you don't back up and back off, okay? They don't get to dictate to you what you are or are not going to do. They cannot implement anything without your permission. It's kind of like when they say, oh, well, we're going to have an IEP meeting without you. So go for it. And then after the meeting, I'll ask for another meeting. I'll immediately say that you can't implement anything that you discussed because I have no idea what it was. And that's that. They don't get to say, oh, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and this is how it's going to go. And, you don't have any say. It doesn't work like that. They try to do that, and let them. But don't let it bypass you to the point where you're not on it. Sometimes you can just show up and don't talk, and you just listen and record. And that's okay too. Sometimes you have to play the game to get to the point where you want to get. All right? Sometimes just sitting back and listening, you'll learn a lot. And if you're not participating, just picture this. If you go to an IEP meeting virtually and you're sitting there and you don't say anything because you're pissed off and you don't really want to be there and you have other things that you needed to do that day or whatever the case may be, and you didn't see a point in meeting. Okay, there's a lot of parents that have been told, you have to be here right now. And they're like, what's the point? There's no point right now, or they're not going to sign anything because they're hell-bent on that IEP staying in play until them and the school get along or whatever the case may be. So I've taught parents how to go sit and say, all right, it was nice meeting with all y'all, and then there's nothing that can happen because there's no changes that can occur. Give me a PWN. I'll write you right back and say that's not what happened. I don't agree to that. You're not allowed to implement that. All right? So let them think that they have the control. Let them think that they, if they want to make it a power thing, let them do that. All right? But you need to make sure that you're the ones in charge of how things are going to be implemented and what the present levels are right now and how things need to happen so that your child's needs are met, because they don't know what they are right now. They don't know. So for them to say it's this or you only have this choice or that choice is not in their power at this moment. All right? So you need to make sure that you took your notes like I've asked you guys to do. And if you're new, hopefully you took notes over COVID. I begged you guys to record so that you have proof of what you're saying, what you've documented. All right? And you want to make sure that when you go to your IEP meetings, that you are very clear on where they are presently. All right. So you're not letting them dictate to you what the provisions are within that. Now, you can use present levels from your past present levels if they're accurate, but you want to make sure that they're accurate and then add what is now. All right. So, all right. So, case law, let's talk about that for a second. If the school system does not provide ESY to your child, and your child could be significantly jeopardized, and that is shown throughout the school year where they didn't make much progress. There had been maybe some regression. Other needs came about. Speech may have gotten worse, or there was some occupational therapy, different needs that came about. Some serious behavior issues that started to show face. These are different things that can be what's called significantly jeopardizing your child and their needs and changing up what is going to be provided, for the school year and then beyond. And so you have to make sure, which is a big thing that I like to tell parents, is you want to make sure that you get into the school system and observe your child, because you want to know what's going on. You want those service logs, which is in regards to your child and their services and when they're provided and so on and so forth. Okay? So you want to make sure that you get those things. You want to make sure that the word regression is not the only thing that's used. Oh, your child has made regression. Your child hasn't regressed. All right. They seem to want to throw that word out there all the time and not consider any other reasoning. And that's where the school systems are going wrong. All right. So, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is many court cases have sided with parents in regards to ESY based off of parents' testimony of what has gone down with their child in the school year, the proof that it is that they have in regards to their child's either regression or significant area in which was of need, okay? Which is where the significantly jeopardized comes into play. So if there's a severe area of need, even if that is just behavior, and like I was saying, it could be just speech or just OT, whatever. But if there's a significant area of deficit that's even cognitive, then ESY should be provided for that specific area or in areas around that and surrounding that that could impact that specific area. Okay? So ESY can be a ton of things. And if you've gotten my services, accommodations, and modifications mini course, which you guys should have gotten that, okay? It's under $50, super cheap, and it tells you everything you need to know about services, accommodations, and modifications. Okay? Let me know if you want it. I'll post the link below. Okay, so all right, so I'm at, sorry, I was taking notes, life skills. Cynthia says, I don't care if any of my kids know where the country Turkey is located. I do care if they can function in life on a daily basis. Yeah. Jess says, great, thank you. They told me I wasn't allowed to record. Well, where do you live? Tara says, I asked for an end of the year IEP meeting at our SPED teacher. Told me no. When was that? Viviana says, my son graduated 6th grade and his bike entering middle school in a new district. We had our virtual IEP. I haven't signed, obviously, and never do at the initial IEP. Good. I haven't signed. Okay. I emailed my personal notes, and the principal is telling me we need to sign an amendment in order to add my notes. That is not true. Okay. There is no such amendments that has to go into play to add your notes. Those notes should have already been put into the IEP, because if you were given an IEP after the meeting, that should have only been a draft for you to review and then to sign the original. But if I'm wrong in saying that, and you went to the meeting, they drafted the original IEP, the main one, in your meeting based off of your discussion with them, and that was okay, then you went home with the IEP. Okay? But if you didn't sign it, then there's no amendment to happen because you didn't sign it. So an amendment is if you signed it and then provided notes, and you wanted those notes in the IEP, then you would sign an amendment with the notes in the IEP. But if they just gave you the IEP, you didn't sign it, you provided notes, then they put the notes in the IEP and give you back the IEP, and then you sign it. So there's no amendment if you didn't sign the damn IEP. That doesn't even make sense. So that's what I would say to them. I would say that doesn't even make sense. Tell me how that makes sense. I didn't sign the IEP. Where's the amendment going to come from? What are you amending? So no, that's not true. Heather says, Kaj, call an emergency IEP and request it. You can call an IEP meeting anytime you want. You can call an IEP meeting anytime you want. There is no such thing as an emergency IEP meeting. All right. So you can call it, if you will, an emergency IEP meeting. Say, for example, your child was suspended or something serious happened. And I'm not talking about serious to you or me because everything's serious, but I'm talking about serious, like they were suspended, like kicked out of school for a period of time or something. There was a safety issue. Your child got bullied and was beat up or something along those lines that would be constituted as an emergency and very serious. Then an IEP meeting can be held, and it has to be held within 2 weeks. But there's no such thing as an emergency IEP, if that makes sense. Fatima says, I want it, please. Absolutely. I'll post the link. Unless one of my oldies but goodies wants to post it, but I'll post the mini course link. Okay, so Jess says, yes, please post that. Okay, I will. Michelle says, no ESY, even when my 4th grader was reading at a 1st grade level. Okay. Yes, please post the link. I also want to remake my son's goals. Yeah, if you guys are interested, I was just telling someone this today because they thought I was busy. No, I was saying that I do have IEP makeover time open. I am finally relieved of some stress and things that I was doing. Like I was telling Cynthia the other day, I actually have the openness. I was doing some things in regards to my own child and getting things together for this coming nightmare of a year. And so I was, kind of busy doing that. But now I have some openings. So I have time for IEP makeovers where I go through each and every bit of your IEP and we redo it and we make goals together and I recreate all your goals. And yes, I have the course, which is the Services, Accommodations, and Modifications mini course. All right, so Kim says, I've gotten the mini course and started over again listening to it so that I don't miss anything, picking up something each time. Aw, I'm so glad. Jessica says, I want it. Tara says, it was in April. Okay, so just so you, oh, thank you. So Cynthia just posted it for you guys. The mini course link is posted right below. Thank you, Cynthia. Viviana says, thanks. The hat's what I thought. Yes. Um, Angela says, never received an IEP meeting this year. My son's was placed on homebound though. You still get, and the zero help from a teacher. I was the teacher and my son failed math, even though I. All right, you need to call me, Angela, or message me, PM me. And Tara, I'd like to talk with you too. That is not allowed. What happened, Cynthia? Um, so Angela, Tara, yeah, I want you guys to PM me. But Tara, in regards to the IEP, okay, so most school systems, because I was in 50 million different IEPs this past year, it seemed like. The link isn't working. Okay. Okay, she just posted it again. It's posted it again, guys. All right. So, they should have, they were wrapping up last minute IEPs. So, why they didn't have, so you didn't have an IEP meeting at all this year? Is that what you're saying, Tara? Because that's not allowed. And they can't say, oh, we closed or whatever. They had to wrap up their IEP meetings for that year. Okay. So that can't happen. And Angela, we need to talk because that's not cool. All right. Homebound is homebound is homebound, as IEP is an IEP is an IEP. If your child has an IEP, I don't care. Like I was saying on Saturday, go watch that video, guys. It was good. I don't care if they're taught in the middle of the road. Doesn't matter. If they have an IEP, that school system has to adhere to that IEP. That's why I said, don't sign anything when you first go in this year. Because more than likely, they're not making your IEPs accurate and good because they're wanting to compensate for the fact that your child's going to be virtually trained in a way if you're not going back to school. Okay? My daughter's starting high school too, Linda. And so I'm not changing my child's IEP right now. Not happening. I ain't signing anything. They can take me to 50 million IEP meetings. I ain't signing it. Not happening. Okay? Got to kill me first. So you guys need to have that attitude. All right? Now, if you don't like your IEP now, okay, in my mind, it's like, unless they make it better, don't sign it. Okay? You want the services, accommodations, and modifications. If it's in your IEP right now, they have to provide it. Whether your child is taught in a car, in a boat, how does that go? Like the cat in the hat in a car, in a boat, in a house, or whatever, okay? I don't care where they're taught, okay? Their IEP is what it is. And they don't get to dictate, oh, sign this amendment because they're going to be virtually trained now and they're going to be virtually taught. So it has to change. We have to have you sign this amendment. Not. They don't have to have you do anything. And you sure as hell don't have to do anything. Say, nah, I'm not going to sign any amendments. I'm just going to keep my kid's IEP the way it is. And then they're going to come back and they're going to say, oh, well, your child's going to, suffer. We're not going to be able to provide this and that. And it's just going to be a mess. And you really got to sign this. We're having all the parents sign this amendment. You know what I say? I say that's interesting because you don't have all the parents signing this amendment because I'm not. And I'm actually one of those parents where I'm okay being different than other parents. When my children were growing up, okay, so I have two children, 24 and 20. One's in the Coast Guard, one's a teacher. I didn't allow them. I was strict, guys. I was strict. I was a strict mom. All right. So I didn't let them go partying. Okay. They ended up great kids, but I didn't let them go partying. In my mind, I was like, when they turn 18, they can do whatever they want. But while they're in my house, they're not going to parties. You go to I was a little bit old-fashioned. Actually, I'm old-fashioned in that sense. where if you want to go to a party when you're 18, go to a party. But from 15, 16, 17, 18, I don't see any need for a child to go to a party, because what happens? They're hanging out with their friends and they're getting in trouble at that type of age. Typically, that's what they do. All right? So if it's a party, that doesn't mean spending the night with friends. That means a party. Okay? So I didn't let my kids do that. And they did just fine. All right? Did they say, Mom, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't let us do this? Of course they did. But that I sit and tell that story to the school system and say, just because you say all the parents are signing this amendment, I ain't signing it. I'm okay with being different. I'm okay with being that mom, you know? So you guys got to be okay with that. All right? And really be okay with that. All right? And maybe it may be a little bit uncomfortable at first because you're not used to saying, nope, I'm not doing that to the school system. Or maybe you're a little apprehensive about that, feeling that, you know, your kids may suffer in some way, shape, or form. Not going to happen. Okay? Go with your gut. If your gut really says no, but you say yes or go with the flow because you feel obligated or you feel that there's pressure put on you and you just said yes or something like that, number one, rescind your yes immediately. And number two, just be secure in that no. Because if that's what your gut is telling you, you are right 99% of the time. So be okay with that. All right? And don't listen to the, oh, you got to sign this amendment, you know, because your child's going to be virtually taught this year. So you have got to sign this. We're having all parents sign this because it's a must, because things have to change. No, the only thing that changes with virtual versus being in school is the placement. That's it. And of course, you know, placement meaning your child's at home versus at school. So obviously, for them to learn, it would have to be virtual. Kind of common sense. So they know that. They just want in your IEP provisions to allow them that opportunity, that space, however you want to say it, to be able to play a little bit and to have things dictated in the way that they want. Don't sign it. Okay? All right. So my son's starting high school and I was debating district versus private. I went to the district only if they met certain conditions. My child is going to private school. I want no parts of the district school anymore. And of course she'll have an IEP. One of which is doing classroom visitations, observations. Yeah, mine won't go to private school this year because, you know, right now they have limitations because of COVID, but hopefully next year, the following year. Raven had deleted first link. That was my link. Okay. Yes, hopefully you did. No, I had two, but never came to an agreement. Okay, nothing ever got signed. All right, Terry. Yeah, just message me. Maribel says, what will happen with kids that have IEP and should be getting services? They will get services online. And as I posted the other day, school systems, because of what's going on right now, are getting extra funding. So the extra funding is for them to provide services, accommodations, and modifications, among other things, to all children. And so that can even provide a service provider to come to your home. So you need to look at what are the options and you need to ask for anything that you need to ask for because your child needs it and it's what's appropriate for them. So your child will be given whatever services, accommodations, and modifications are in your IEP. By law, they have to be put into play. Okay, so if you have any questions in regards to how that is delivered or how that is done, let me know. Marie Drew, hi, how are you? Kim says, I love teach from the middle of the road, never have signed an IEP. Yeah. You're that state. What she's saying is there's, I think it's 6 states in the United States that don't require you to sign an IEP. All right. So, meaning you have an IEP meeting and within 2 weeks they can put your IEP in play. However, you can rescind it. All right. And you can say you don't agree. And you can immediately either go back to the table at the IEP meeting or you can go to mediation. Okay. So there's still options. Okay. The IEP is not set in stone in those states just because they don't have to sign them. However, it's a little bit more trickier. But there is many of those states are going to be changing things because parents' rights are getting a lot more prevalent when it comes to the IEP and the IEP process and the parents having that final say. Maria says, I was supposed to have an IEP meeting by phone and do not do it by phone. Immediately email them and say, I can't do it by phone. That's not the way I focus. It's not the way I learn. And I'm not able to adequately, here's your key words, I am not able to adequately participate as an equal team member on the phone. I apologize. Please let me know when we can do a Zoom call, face to face. All right. Haven't received it. Okay. So that's what you're going to do. Okay, Maria? Cynthia says, message her. Jessica says, quick question. If my kids, hold on one second. All right. All right, Cynthia, I messaged you. All right, so quick question. If my kids' prior IEPs have autism, ADHD, TS, and ID, I relocated to another state and they wanted to put OHI instead of their diagnosis, which also affect their learning disabilities, did a school evaluation and IEP claims that they do not have autism or ADHD, knowing there are spectrums. Is that no, absolutely not. I would completely disagree with it. I would go back to the IEP table every 5 minutes if I had to. Not really, it would be every 30 days. But absolutely not. You fight that. And you say that this has been my child's IEP for this long. OHI is other health impairments, which autism isn't under other health impairments. So they have to at least put autism. Autism is within its own in the 13 disabilities under IDEA. So autism, if your child just has autism, it cannot just be under other health impairments. Okay? All right. So Linda says, can disciplinary action be put in an IEP? Like suspension? Then Jen says, should I change the goals for virtual learning for my pre-K child when I know they aren't getting the interaction? Explain to me what you mean, Jen, just so that I can formulate in my mind. Yeah, Kim, you know what's weird is all the IEP meetings that I've been to in New York, they all have to sign. All of them. By law. Which is weird. So I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. Because all of these areas, and I'm talking about like the city, the parent had to sign. So, Maria said, thank you so much. You're welcome. And Jess says, yeah, they don't want to apply autism on my child's IEP. They want to label it development. Nope, that is not allowed. Nope, nope, nope. So if your child has been officially diagnosed with autism, all right, it can say diagnosed medically with autism. I don't care, or it can say anything like that. But autism is one of the 13 disabilities under IDEA. Okay? There is no, the child doesn't have autism because they don't what do they call it? Educational autism or some crap. What is that? There is no such thing, guys. Okay? If your child that's a medical diagnosis. The school cannot say one way or the other if your child has autism. They are not legally allowed to say that. Now they can say this child presents behaviors that represent autism, or this child presents cognitive difficulties or deficits related to autism. They can say things like that. But they cannot say this child does not have autism. Because if that child is diagnosed by a medical doctor with autism, that's what I always say, go to a developmental pediatrician or a neurologist or whatever. They cannot say otherwise because they're not doctors. So they cannot medically diagnose ever. And there's no such thing as educational autism. What is that? Someone please tell me, because several parents have said to me, well, they said that my child wasn't educationally autistic. Is there like, that's so stupid. Now, what they may mean, guys, okay, is for your child to receive special education services, your child's disability of autism or of whatever it is that they have, okay, speech delay, other health impairments, a bunch of things falls under that, like anxiety, ADHD, so on and so forth. So that's fine for them to have OHI, but autism is a standalone. So it can say OHI and autism. Just like if it's autism and dyslexia, it says autism and dyslexia because they're both within the 13. They don't, either of them are not under OHI. Okay? So if your child is blind and has ADHD, so it would say blind, okay? Or whatever the other words they'd like to use. There's different wording and verbiage. Along with OHI, okay? So they can use the OHI for what falls underneath that umbrella of OHI. But they cannot just bam your child's OHI if your child's diagnosed with dyslexia and a speech impediment and, autism. Because all of those are standalones. So they are not appropriate, and it's inappropriate for them to just state OHI. You fight that. Nope. Not signing it until you figure it out. And we can go to mediation if you'd like, but I'm not signing that. Jen says, my goals are playing with, yeah. So Jen, hopefully you're still on here so you can explain that to me. Linda says, entire day in office because of one infraction. What do you mean by that? Linda David. entire day in office because of one of her. Oh, like in the school. Son has spent wild day in principal's office with no learning going on. Yeah, that's not allowed. Unless they're a child with special needs to be learning. Any child needs to be learning. And to sit in a principal's office for something that was produced, okay, that's basically showing up, showing, that's the wording, okay, then your child is not receiving FAPE. So, if their punishment from what their behavior was is to remove them from the educational setting because their behavior, whatever that was, what stemmed from their impact of disability, they are not allowed to do that. Okay? They have to provide your child with FAPE. And if a behavior is a result of their impact of disability, number one, you need to have an FBA done immediately. Number two, you go get in that principal's face and you say, don't ever put my child in your office to sit because of XYZ and not be learning. Call me, I'll come pick them up, or whatever. But that's insane. They can't do that, like they can't just, hey, sit in the office all day. Send them home if you're going to do that, So that's not okay. So you need to put a provision in writing to the school. I would even like fill it out, sign it, and go get it notarized kind of thing. If your child has behavior issues and any type of restraints are going on, then you need to make sure that you write the school and state, and we'll talk about restraints later on in the year, but you want to make sure that the school's clear on what you allow. All right. You want to make sure that whoever is FAPE, FAPE, you want to make sure that what the school is doing to your child in regards to, because restraining and restraints have to happen sometimes, guys. I know it's not pretty, but sometimes it has to happen to protect themselves and other children. So if it does have to happen, what you as the parent need to make sure of is, number one, whoever is doing the restraints is trained. And I mean trained, not 12 hours of stupid shit training. I mean trained. All right, that they have a history of knowing how to do this. Okay, that no marks are going to be left on your child because of being restrained. All right, and that you are called immediately to say your child is being restrained because of whatever. Okay, and then you need to state what it is that you will allow as far as restraints to keep your child safe. All right, so if you have a child who has behavior issues, you guys got to get real with yourselves, because you do have to make sure that your child stays safe and other children stay safe. All right. But what you also need to get real with is, what is it that you feel comfortable with as a parent to allow the school system to do. All right. So kind of write that down and fumble that around in your head and figure out what you're comfortable with. And then the next thing you want to do is write a letter, go get it notarized and sign it, and state exactly what you want to happen. Okay, that number one, you want an FBA done if you haven't had one and the child doesn't have a BIP. You definitely want a de-escalation plan within that BIP, and you want to make sure that everything's stated as far as what you want as far as restraints. Check homeschooling law. Very stupid. Check homeschooling law. Most of the time you have to register with state. Virtual through school system doesn't register with state. Cynthia Scamilla says, what can be done when you have a child that is not able to sit for long periods of time, when the related services speech, what strategies do you suggest? So So if we're just talking about a child with like ADHD, or maybe we're talking about a child with autism who just can't sit still, or maybe they have autism and ADHD. If they can't sit still, there's nothing wrong with standing. And if they need to be moving, then services can be provided while moving. And the educators and the service providers need to accommodate. So whatever it is that they need to accommodate. But then a BIP, so a FBA and a BIP needs to be put in place in regards to that behavior of, escape or wandering or needs to sit still, etc., so that that child can be taught within a reasonable time to calm down and to be able to sit for periods of time, and then a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer. And, and that can be based off of, that child working for rewards and different things. So that can all be put into the BIP. And then, so that's put into the BIP, and then the services then have what's called accommodations attached to them, so to speak. And those accommodations can be the speech therapist walks with the child and does speech face-to-face standing up. You accommodate based off the need and based off the impact of disability. Okay? Viviana says, you are welcome. You are awesome. You've got me inspired. Now I want to kick their asses. Good. Linda says, yes, I put not to do that in the IEP. Good. Jessica says, they told me that they cannot test for dyslexia because he falls under the umbrella of learning disabilities and low cognitive scores. Okay, message me. There's several tests for dyslexia. All right. My daughter was done. Oh, it's Cynthia says, what about occupational therapy or physical therapy? What about it? Tara says, are you saying FAPE or vape? FAPE. Free appropriate public education. Jen Simpson says, I was asking previously if I should request that they change his goals since we are virtual learning 100%. I suggest we redo the goals, not them, because they haven't been around your child. But I think that you should create them based off his present levels presently. And you can even look at the old goals as long as the old goals were appropriate. Okay? Coquetta says, that happened to me. They didn't put it in his IEP. They put developmental delay. Oh my God, guys, I'm tired. It's like 10 o'clock here. I worked so hard not to take my son out of the IEP. Now his diagnosis is health impairment because he has an absent epileptic syndrome. I've been dealing with this for years. So what did they take out of his IEP, Coquetta? Cynthia says a behavioral intervention plan. Yes, that's a BIP. Cynthia says, yeah, and a child sitting in ISS crocheting and origami, his favorite activity, is not effective. Right. Michelle says, what is a VIP? It's a BIP. B as in boy, I as in igloo, and P as in Paul. So it's a behavior intervention plan. Okay. Before that can go into play, you have to have a FBA, which is a functional behavior assessment. So it's and the only person that should be giving that assessment is a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst. Okay. So that's who should be giving the FBA. Okay. They're observing, taking notes. I mean, they are the data takers. All right. They are genius at data. And that is the only person that should be giving the FBA. Not a psychologist, not the school counselor, not the school psychologist. Even though the school psychologist can do an FBA, that is not their specialty. It's not. Go to a psychologist if you want counseling, all right? Don't go to a psychologist if you want an FBA. They do not specialize in behavior. Okay? Cynthia says, okay, so you're welcome, Cynthia Escamilla. You are new, huh? We will be faced with online education. Yep, I know. Sucks. What if the school psychologist did my son's FBA? Well, is it accurate? I mean, if it's already done, is it accurate? The problem with that, I would want a redo. If it's been a year, you can ask for a redo. Or you can say it's not accurate and you want an IEE. That's what I would do. So if you've had an evaluation, which is an FBA, they did an evaluation, if that was in the past, if that was in less than a year, then you can ask for an IEE. And that's when the school system has to pay for you to, you can go to a BCBA and do the FBA. What if, okay, like OT and PT. Okay. All right, guys. So hopefully you got a good amount of information. There's more on ESY that I want to talk about. Okay. One thing I will tell you, I'm going to read this to you. So states may use what's called recoupment, all right, and retention as their sole criteria, but they are not limited to these standards and have considerable flexibility in determining eligibility for ESY services and establishing state standards for making ESY determinations. However, whatever standard a state uses must be consistent with IDEA, okay? And may not limit eligibility for ESY services to children with a particular disability category or applied in a manner that denies children with disabilities ESY who require ESY services in order to receive FAPE, okay? And that is a federal regulation, all right? And it also should be noted that the United States Department of Education, OSEP, all right, has addressed the matter of cost associated with the ESY. FAPE means that parents do not bear the financial responsibility, all right? Because ESY is considered a FAPE component, it would follow that there are no cost requirements for ESY. However, OSEP noted in 2002 that the no cost requirement does not preclude incidental fees that are normally charged to non-disabled students or their parents as part of the regular education program. All right, so you don't have to pay for ESY. All right, and there's a lot of provisions that go into it. So a lot of the stuff that I have here, we're going to still go into. So I will do another live, my next live, tomorrow or Wednesday. All right. And we're going to talk more on ESY. We're going to talk more on the degrees and the in-depth amount of compensatory services you can ask for your children, and how you can measure where your child was at the end of the school year when they stopped school in March. I know for us it was March 13th because the following week was spring break and then it was COVID. So here's the hiccup with that a little bit is if you didn't recently have an IEP meeting, the hiccup is the present levels are from the beginning of the year for whenever that annual was. So it's very hard to figure out when that gap of progress or no progress is, where is it, and what really was their present levels, because if your annual was 6 months before, we got a problem now because now you got a year that has gone by and no present levels taken. So I have been requesting for many of my parents reevaluations. They need a complete reevaluation, a psychoeducational, speech, OT, PT, whatever it is that they need. And it's the C top 2. Let me make sure. Hang on. I have it in my notes. For the dyslexia, it is... Yes. All right. It's C. So whoever it was who asked me about the dyslexia, I have a place that you can get with. But it's called C, capitals, CTOPP, CTOPP -2. That is one of the better dyslexia tests that the schools do give. Okay. So you can request a psychoeducational, speech, PT, OT, whatever it is that your child has deficits in. And then, yep, CTOPP -2. Right. And that has to do with, it's a phonological processing test, and it identifies children who have risk and reading problems, and how they diagnose dyslexia. And I mean, there's other ways to have them diagnosed as well. So, and Viviana, we can talk more in reference to your FBA if it's a concern. If it's not a concern and you're just asking, well, the psychologist did mine. If you're happy with it, you know your child best. If you're not happy with it, then yes, I would ask for an IEE dependent on when your last evaluation was, and get another FBA by a BCBA. Okay, guys? All right, so tomorrow night, actually, yeah, it's Wednesday night, I'll go back live here, because tomorrow night, which is Tuesday, I do what's called a Q&A, a question and answer session on my group, can't even say it, specific to my group members. So if you aren't a part of the group, put into the search bar, Autism Mama Rocks the IEP group, and you can join the group, okay? And make sure you click notifications so you know when I go live here on the page, and make sure that, one thing I didn't note today, number 1, post a 1 below if you're new. 1 below if you're new. I want to get to know you. 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. And if you want to share this, you will be put into the basket where I'm giving away gifts on my birthday this month on the 27th. So if you share, post share below, and I will put you guys in the basket to win a prize, which I normally do on the group, but I'm doing it this month for the group and the page because it's my birthday month. All right. So yes, a 1 below if you're new, a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is click notifications so you know when I go live. Number 3 is put in the search bar Autism Mama Rocks IEP group and go join the group. All right. And then number 4, the link is in the comments. Grab the Services, Accommodations, and Modifications course. It is under $50, super cheap, and it'll tell you everything that you need to know in reference to services, accommodations, and modifications. Okay, it's awesome. It's a good course, and I think it will really help you. You get a 35-page workbook where you have a plethora amount of things that you can look at in regards to services and accommodations, and you're able to really dive into it and really have your eyes open, because a lot of the things are not on Google. Hi.
On your hug, please.
Okay, give me a hug.
I
love you. All right, girly. So make sure that you do those things, okay? And grab the course, guys. I will be in about a month doing a great big huge webinar. All right, so if you guys are not part of my email list, you can go and join that. All right, and grab the free checklist. All right, if you haven't done that already. PM me if you have any questions. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Cynthia, so much she posted it. Cynthia Lamode. She posted the link to the mini course. All right. Hey, Jesse, how are you? How's your son? All right. Michelle said she shared. All right, I got you. And yes, I will message you. Emmett, hello. Tasia shared. Awesome. All right, look at all these new people. That's so awesome. So hopefully you newbies are part of the group, okay? The group is where you can ask tons of questions, and you have a lot of parents they're just awesome. Everybody's pretty cool over there, so I like it. Cynthia said real quick, once you request this in writing, do we have to wait 45 school days? What are you requesting? The CTOP 2 test? If you're asking for the CTOP 2 test, when you ask for a reevaluation, as long as you haven't had one in the last year, every state allows you to request a new reevaluation every single year. Okay? So you can ask for a reevaluation, and you ask for that specific test because of XYZ. Make sure you have objective data to back it up, meaning that your child has had 2 years of difficulty with reading or whatever the case is. Make sure you state facts of why you want that CTOP 2 test, and you need to request the reevaluations. And reevaluations typically are done within 60 to 65 days, depending on what your state statute states. So most of them are 60 days. I know here in Virginia it's 65. So depends. All right. So Viviana shared. Yes. All right. He's good. He just doesn't like the classroom tube. Thank you for asking. You are welcome. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. I have been on here for about an hour and a half, and I will talk to you guys soon. Post below if you have any questions. You can PM me. Join the group, Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. Share. You can share even when I get off here, and I promise that I'll put you in the basket. And make sure you guys grab the course, okay? It's super cheap, and it's something we all need, okay? And a lot of the courses that I create, I've only created 2 because I feel like right now those are the most important, which is my big course, which is everything, your whole enchilada that goes over my trademarked PPPN system. And then I have the services, accommodations, and modifications mini course, which is solely on that. Okay? And eventually I'll be coming out with probably one more in reference to IEPs and goals and going over your IEP and my crazy brain of how I look at things when I go through it. But that is coming next fall, something like that. I don't know. Because I also have a podcast that I'm probably going to be putting together. I have a lot going on this year. So a lot of good things for you guys, okay? So I'm excited about that. You're welcome, Emmett. You guys are so welcome. All right, so I will talk to you guys soon. You guys know what to do. Grab the course. The link is in the comments. And I will see you guys on Wednesday because tomorrow I I may be taking off Wednesday. So let's just say Thursday. All right, so tomorrow is the Q&A on the group. So make sure to join me over there. And then I will see you guys live on Thursday for content. I may even go live on Wednesday, but it'll probably be in the afternoon. Okay? So click notifications so you know when I go live, even if you don't catch me live, so at least you know to go catch it later. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.